Escape from Alcatraz is a legendary prison break that captured the public's imagination back in the early 60s and continues to fascinate us to this very day. This terrifying tale of daring, desperation, and deception has got everyone wondering what really happened. Even the FBI isn't 100% sure. Let's dive deep into the murky depths of this unsolved mystery. June 11, 1962, a date that will live in infamy among prison break enthusiasts. That's the day when 3 inmates, Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin, disappeared from the infamous Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary. Their vanishing act was meticulously planned, showcasing an almost unbelievable level of detail and determination. These guys weren't your average inmates. Frank Morris was a notorious bank robber with a genius-level IQ of 133, having previously escaped from other institutions 5 times. Talk about a serial escape artist. John and Clarence Anglin were no slouches either. These Florida boys were also skilled bank robbers with a lifetime of crime under their belts. But what set them apart was their intimate knowledge of the ocean and its currents. You see, these brothers practically grew up in the water, and, as it turned out, this unique skill set would play a crucial role in their audacious plan. But why Alcatraz? This prison wasn't your run-of-the-mill jail. It was considered the most secure prison in the United States, housing some of the most dangerous criminals known to man. The island fortress was surrounded by freezing cold, treacherous waters of the San Francisco Bay. Many people called it the Rock. The warden was confident that no one could escape from the island prison because the waters surrounding the island were too cold for anyone to survive more than a few minutes. Now let's talk about how these masterminds pulled off their prison break. First, they needed to get out of their cells. And believe me, those things were as secure as they come. But these guys were prepared. Using nothing but homemade drills fashioned from spoons, they patiently chipped away at the mortar around the air vents in their cells. Yes, you heard that right, spoons. I mean, who would have thought that a spoon could be a deadly weapon? But these inmates were resourceful, patient, and oh so determined. Once they made the air vent wide enough, they slipped inside. This was just the beginning of their great escape. You might be thinking, how did they fool the guards? Well, let me tell you. These men were committed to their craft. For months, they crafted remarkably lifelike dummy heads using soap, cement, and hair pilfered from the prison barber shop. These dummies were so realistic that they fooled the guards during the nightly bed checks. Can you imagine the audacity of it all? They were literally sleeping in their beds, while their real bodies were somewhere else on the prison grounds. But you might be wondering, how did they get out of the prison grounds? Well, once they made it out of their cells, they moved through a network of tunnels and shafts until they reached the roof. From there, they scaled razor wire fences, slid down a pipe, and made their way to the seawall that protected the island. Finally, they were mere moments away from freedom. But how did they escape the heavily guarded shoreline? Well, that's where their knowledge of the sea came into play. They had carefully studied the tides and the currents and knew exactly where to make their move. Under the cover of darkness, they waded into the freezing cold water and disappeared. Now, you might be thinking, there's no way they could have survived the icy waters of the San Francisco Bay. And you're right, the water temperature was a bone-chilling 52 degrees Fahrenheit, and the strong currents could easily pull a person under. But these men had planned for every eventuality. They had fashioned life vests from more than 50 raincoats, creating flotation devices that were bulky but effective. Additionally, they had prepared a raft that was anchored offshore. Their goal was to inflate the raft using air siphoned from an oxygen tank hidden in one of the life vests. But unfortunately, the weight of the life vests caused the oxygen tank to sink, forcing them to abandon their plan and swim to the raft. But here's the thing, we may never know what really happened to these men. Despite an extensive 17-year investigation by the FBI, the case remains officially unsolved. The only evidence left behind was a strange letter postmarked Brazil in 2013, purportedly written by John Anglin, one of the escapees. In the letter, he claimed that all 3 men had successfully escaped and were living in South America. What's even more intriguing is that the letter was postmarked 2 years after the supposed escape. Could these men have really remained on the lam for so long? Was it possible that they had managed to evade capture for over 5 decades? Well, it's not out of the realm of possibility. After all, both John and Clarence Anglin were known to be excellent swimmers. In fact, according to witnesses, Clarence Anglin swam competitively in high school, and both brothers were avid surfers in their youth. If they managed to stay afloat in the frigid waters of the San Francisco Bay, anything was possible. But let's think like the FBI. Why would 3 seasoned criminals, who had successfully escaped from Alcatraz Island, one of the most secure prisons in the world, bother writing a letter to the authorities? Wouldn't it have been better for them to remain silent and lay low rather than draw attention to themselves? There are a couple of theories regarding this letter. Some believe that it was a hoax intended to mislead authorities and any potential investigators. Others speculate that it was simply a red herring, a way for the escapees to throw off suspicion from themselves. It ain't even possible that the letter was written by someone imitating the escapees in an attempt to confuse the authorities. But wait, there's more. Just when you thought the case couldn't get any weirder, I should mention that photographs surfaced in the late 90s that purportedly showed John and Clarence Anglin in Brazil. These pictures were sent to family members, leaving little doubt in their minds that the brothers had indeed escaped and were living new lives, far from the prying eyes of the authorities. In 2006, several articles were published detailing accounts from individuals who claimed to have seen the escapees years after their breakout. These witnesses said that they had spotted two men who closely resembled the Anglin brothers at various locations, including a bar in Mexico and a hotel in Panama. One witness, Clarence's former wife, even claimed to have seen him at a family funeral in Florida in the early 80s. And do you want to forget the reports of fishermen who spotted two men fitting the description of the Anglin brothers on a boat in Brazil? These sightings, coupled with the letter and photographs, provided tantalizing clues that the brothers were alive and well somewhere out there. So why hasn't the FBI caught them if they're still alive? Well, it's not for lack of trying. The truth is that the FBI has spent countless hours searching for these men, combing through leads and following up on every possible angle. But as the years went by, the trail went cold. Witnesses' memories faded and leads turned up empty. But here's the kicker. As of today, if they're still alive, both John and Clarence Anglin would be in their 90s. This raises an interesting question. Are they still out there hiding, perhaps too old for a life of crime? Or have they finally decided to lay low and enjoy their golden years peacefully? Who knows? Maybe they've become reformed citizens, volunteering at soup kitchens and baking cookies for underprivileged children. Okay, maybe not that last part. This case is still officially open, which means that the FBI hasn't given up hope of finding the escapees, dead or alive. They got a dedicated phone line and email address for anyone with information and are offering a reward of up to $5,000 for any tips that lead to the recovery of the escapees' remains or their capture. Let me ask you, what do you think happened to Frank, Morris, John, and Clarence Anglin? Did they make it to South America, or did they meet their demise in the frigid waters of the San Francisco Bay? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss out on the latest updates. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.